Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Horse Center. Rich has made his return after Miss Martinez did a fabulous job hosting the show last week. Thank you, Jamie. See if I can keep the muscle just as well. And we're joined tonight, as usual, by Swiss Army Shawn and Jockey Lindey Wade. Jockey Lindey Wade, how are you doing today?
Doing good, boss. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. So we had a little bit of trouble getting connected. Now we're connected, and Lindy's on his way to grab a little bit to eat. So he said he's heading off to a nice sunset dinner with his girlfriend somewhere in Minnesota by a lake. Is that right?
That is correct. That's where we're headed. Sorry for the rough connection.
Yeah, it happens. It's technology, right? I don't know how we lived without it before and how we live it today. So it kind of goes both ways.
Very true.
You grew up in Louisiana, right?
Yes, I did. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, and then grew up in like the Shreveport-Bossier area.
So how did that get into horse racing?
So my parents actually both rode. My mom rode races prior to having me, and my dad galloped pretty much his whole life. So I grew up on the racetrack, so a lot of people knew me before I ever got started as a kid running around the backside of the fairgrounds and Louisiana Downs. Between those two tracks, I pretty much knew everybody that was there.
So at what point as a kid, watching mom and dad in the business growing up on the backside, did you say, you know what, I want to be a jockey? Was that always the plan?
It really wasn't. When I was a kid, I was really good at baseball. I played baseball all the way through high school. In the summer times, I would tinker around getting on horses periodically and whatnot, but I was never set on being a rider. I wanted to play baseball. That was the only thing that I thought about and really could dream about. Then you get to the point to where you're either going to make it or you're not, and I learned quickly that I wasn't going to make it in high school. I mean, I did well, but I wasn't going to cut it. So I shifted my focus to riding races, and it's kind of how it set sail from there.
So what position did you play? Shortstop? Is that going to be my guess?
I was a baseman. I literally played second base from like T-ball all the way through high school. Didn't really ever play any other position, to be honest. I was a ride or die second baseman.
All right. So Ryan Sandberg was your hero growing up, or somebody else?
To be honest, I was a big fan of Chipper Jones. Even though, didn't he play third base? Wasn't he a third baseman?
Yeah, I think he started off as a shortstop and ended up at third base with 30 kids.
I was a big fan of his growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I heard. He spent more time at home because like I said, he had 30 kids. So he was more of he would always run the bases more often than he should have probably.
Right.
For sure. So last year you had a phenomenal year. I mean, I think one of your best years, if not your best year. What do you credit the great success to in 2021?
I mean, it's just the people. Definitely the people and the horses behind me. So it was my first time to, I was on the Texas-Oklahoma circuit for like 10 years, and I started out doing the same thing last winter. I started in Sam Houston, and then we got to Lone Star, and things were I was doing okay, but I'd been there 10 years, and it was kind of an old name there, so I was kind of had the idea of trying something new, going somewhere new, spreading things out a little bit, changing, being a new face somewhere is what I wanted to be. So I had the opportunity to work with the agent that I have now, Chad Anderson, and he's done me a phenomenal job, just taking care of me, getting me on the right horses and whatnot, which is key in this game. It really is. So, I mean, he had very good connections when I came here to Minnesota last summer, and we just rolled. It was an incredible meet, the best I've ever had. I mean, for 4 months winning 80 races, I'm still in shock about it when I think about it. It was just things just went our way. From start to finish last summer here, and then we continued on in the winter to Phoenix. That's where he's from, or that's where he calls home now. So I followed him there, and things started out really well. I was doing very well, and then I had an injury early in 2022 that kind of sidelined me until we got back here in the summer. But yeah, so I would definitely say the people that were behind me last year were I mean, I still have the same people behind me this year, but last year things just came together so well, for not knowing any of them, and then for them to support me so much through the summer and the winter. It was really nice.
So when you're riding down in Phoenix, you're riding up in Minnesota. It seems to me two different tracks, two completely different type of riding styles. Um, how do you transition from one to maybe not two completely different riding styles, but certainly it's much different in Phoenix than it is pretty much anywhere else. How do you
Yeah.
transition from how do you like shake off the habits from one track that might be a bad habit at a new track and kind of go into the good habits for the new track?
That's a good question. It really is, because it took me a bit to figure that out. I mean, I'm a pretty patient rider, I feel like. So I like to save my horse for the latter part of the race. And in Phoenix, it's a very speed favoring racetrack, always has been. And so I had to kind of learn the ropes a bit and experiment a little bit, with changing my riding style and kind of picking up different habits there. Um, but what I tried to do was watch the riders that have success there. That was kind of the most important thing to me, and learn from them. So I think that someone, if you pay attention enough, you can change your riding style and learn different places and what's needed. And I think and two, it helps when you're on good horses. When you're on the best horses in the race, you can kind of experiment a little more and do things um, a little different, and they'll make up for it.
Speaking of horses, Lindy, and connections, let's talk about the horse Shinny, the winningest horse last year with 12 wins all year, and you won most of them. Let's talk about that horse a little bit. That was claimed for $3,500 and has won 15 of its last 19 races.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude, man. I mean, he's not much to look at, to be honest. He's very small and just a bay horse, no color on him, pins his ears all the time. He's just so he's kind of cranky, but he's so cool because, like, he's so smart. That's the one thing that I'll say about him is he's so smart. He knows where the finish line is, and he knows that he doesn't need to be 5 lengths in front of him. He just needs to be a little bit in front of him, and he wins. He's so smart about knowing and where he's at, and he's very aware of his surroundings. It's so cool to be on him and be a part of that, especially with his owner. His owner's been so supportive too. I mean, even there was one race last winter that things didn't go exactly our way, and we finished second at Turf Paradise, and that broke his win streak. But his owner was so supportive, and like he was just so happy that the horse had done what he had done. Like the horse owes us nothing. I mean, so it's really cool to be a part of that. He's a really neat horse.
Do you ride him any different? He wins both on dirt and turf. Does he ride the same race on both?
He rides the same race, yes, but I think he's better on the turf. I think he's a better turf horse because of the way that he runs. His running style, he doesn't have a huge turn of foot. He's kind of a steady guy, so he needs something to hold on to. If he has a chance to, like, when he gets behind horses and the dirt's hitting him and it's really tough for him to close ground, that's difficult for him. But like on the turf, it seems like he has a better turn of foot, if that makes sense. So I prefer riding him on the turf.
So another interesting fact about you, and I put it as a trivia question today, and nobody would have got it right without Googling it, is you were actually the first jockey to ride Blame in his first race. For those who don't know, Blame won the 2010 Breeders' Cup Classic and is the only horse to ever defeat Zenyatta. So can you talk a little bit about Blame?
So I was pretty fortunate with that opportunity. Growing up in Louisiana, my mom, when she was done riding, she was a groom for Al Stall. And so I had that kind of built-in connection. And I went to Kentucky in 2008, and Blaine was a 2-year-old then. And Al was like, I'm going to find you something to ride. We had a long-standing relationship because my mom worked for him. And sure enough, he finds me Blame. And obviously at that point, we didn't know what Blame was or who Blame was, So I got to work him as a 2-year-old all the way up until his first race. So like I got to get him ready and get to learn from a quarter mile all the way up till he was gate ready and gate approved and things like that. So it was pretty neat to be a part of that. I mean, obviously I wish I could have won on him his first start, but I don't know. Have you guys seen that race? He kind of walked out of the starting gates and then made a bold move halfway through the race and then got tired late. Gosh, I wish things would have went a little differently that day, but it's a part of it when you're first time starter, I guess.
I should have looked up the race, but I didn't look up the race. But yeah, you never know what you got until they develop. Where do you prefer to be on the racetrack? Do you prefer to be up close, behind, middle?
Doesn't matter to me as long as I can be on the fence. I like being on the fence. That's my favorite place to be. Whether I just feel comfortable there, whether I'm in front or behind. I don't know why. I don't feel comfortable going 4 or 5 wide, sweeping moves. I mean, obviously every horse is different and you have to do different things for different horses, but my preference is to be on the fence, whether it be on the lead in front, on the lead on the fence, or behind horses on the fence. I just feel like I can save more horse that way. I've always felt that way.
Unfortunately, there's been a slew of injuries at Canterbury. Do you have any updates on some of those jockeys and if anybody can help out with any of it?
I know that Luis Valenzuela, who was injured on the 30th of July, he's made it home to Arizona. He's got multiple fractures in vertebrae in his back. So he's going to be out a while. They have that, the turtle shell thing on him, his front and back. So he's going to be out for 3 or 4 months, but he's doing good. We've been in communication a little bit since he's been injured, and I know that he's in good spirits. I mean, obviously it's tough. He's a young kid. He's 21. He's such a good kid too. He's 21 years old, but he's resilient. I mean, I think when we went and saw him in the hospital, he's already talking about his first race back. So he's excited to get back at it once he's able to do so. And I saw Israel Hernandez the other day. I think he ended up breaking his wrist in an incident here towards the beginning of the meet. And he said he's going to miss the rest of the season here, but he's in good spirits as well. And he's going to be ready to bounce back whenever it's time to be at Turf Paradise this winter. So that's on those two. And Ruben Fuentes, the original one that got hurt, the first guy who was hurt, I saw him. He was here on July 30th. He came and helped out with the leg up fun day that we do here at Canterbury Park. And he was doing well. I mean, he still had his neck brace on and whatnot, but he was very coherent and, he was willing to help and all smiles. So I think of everyone that got hurt, the injuries that it could have been, things could have been a lot worse. So I think they're all fortunate and happy that they're all going to be able to bounce back.
So when you go through something like that, how much of it returning is mental and how much is physical?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I had a pretty severe accident in 2007, and I don't feel like it was a physical thing because I was only 16 years old. So I think it changes with age. Like now, I mean, I think it'd be harder on me physically if something like that were to happen. And mentally, I was so resilient. I think these guys, I mean, if you're a jockey, you're pretty tough. I mean, so these guys are resilient, and they're just looking forward to the next time they could get out there. I know it's kind of crazy because the things that could happen, but it's our lives, I mean, it's what we love to do. So that's what we want to do is get back out there as soon as we can.
And I heard you say, and I was interested in this when you said it, that your goal is to get in rhythm with the horse. And describe first of all, what you mean by that, and then how do you get into rhythm with the horse?
Ooh, I would say it's a culmination of multiple things. Obviously, it's years of being on horses and knowing how to understand them when they're moving at race speed or work speed, things like that, understanding how big their stride is and how long their actual punch will be, the last quarter mile, 3/8 of a mile, things like that. And then it goes with watching replays and studying the past performances. All three of those things put together is how you can understand how you're going to get along with the horse and how, how they're going to respond to the way you handle them. So I think it's a combination of all three.
So do you ever get on a horse and then you feel like from the study of the video, reading the program, and then the way they feel, what do you do when they double cross you? Like you're expecting one thing and they do something completely different.
Oh, unfortunately, that's horse racing. It happens all the time. I would say when I first started riding, I would try to plan the race out in my head and things like that. Well, now I think with age and been riding for 15 years, you don't know what to expect, but it's almost like you have multiple plans in your head, so it's almost kind of like you're flying by the seat of your pants type deal. You have one thing that you want to happen, but if that doesn't happen, then you revert to the next plan that you think will work. So I think with age, it's helped me realize that it doesn't have to go one way. It can go another way. There's always more ways to win than one. You just have to hope that it works.
And that comes through on the rail as well, right?
Exactly.
So you have all this in your mind. So you got plan A, plan B, plan C. You're watching all this stuff in front of you, and you're counting your whip strokes at the same time, right? How much have the rule changes kind of, for lack of a better term, clouded up that, like, your normal mental process when you're riding?
It's not so much the first part of the race when you're getting position and things like that, because you don't have the crop overhanded, so you're not worried about you're not counting at that point. Generally, I'm not, so it's the latter part of the race, the last quarter mile, when you're when you have to go to counting now, when you have to realize that you have six strikes and you better make them count when they're needed. So it's becoming a strategic thing for riders to kind of incorporate that into their riding style, and it's tough. I mean, there's been multiple penalties throughout the country because we've been riding for so long one way. It's hard to just expect us to change overnight, but that's the rules. We don't make them. We just have to follow them, unfortunately.
And there was no grace period for you guys at all? It's like you get first time you're going to get a warning, second time you're going to get a stern warning, third time it was just straight to, zero tolerance?
So we were told for a while, July 1st, this is what's going to happen. This is going to be the new rule. So that was kind of them telling us, hey, get it together before July 1st. So what they did here at Canterbury was, if you were in excess of like the 6 whips, they were lenient, but if you did like 10 or 12, what they would do was they would write like a mock penalty and kind of tell you, hey, look, this is what your penalty will be come July 1st. If you exceed the 6 strikes, this is what it would have been if the HISA was in place at this moment. So HISA did not give us a grace period once July 1st came. It was 6 strikes or you're in trouble. But the stewards here did a good job of kind of setting us up for it. I know that other places it was kind of just normal, and then July 1st came and you're just expected to change. But I thought they did a good job here of setting us up to become accustomed with the new rule.
Sort of like preseason in the NFL or practice with the referees, right? So, something along those lines. So you and Shawn were talking about win streaks and horses that beat Zenyatta. So do you feel like when you're in a streak like that with a particular horse, or maybe with an owner and things are going really well, do you feel added pressure for it to continue going on, or do you feel like you have a little more wiggle room if things go wrong?
I would say added pressure. Definitely. I mean, but what it boils down to is, like, for instance, with Shinny, he owes us nothing. He owes me nothing. He owes Rob, his owner, nothing. He owns Robertino Diodoro nothing. And we all realize that this horse has been so good to us. So anything at this point is icing on the cake. But when you have a streak like that, you want to keep it going. That's definitely, it's in the back of your mind. But again, the horse has just been so cool to all of us that win, lose, or draw, we're happy with him.
Rich and I want a horse that we can claim for $3,500 and win like that. So if there's
ideas?
Yeah. If you come across any, let us know. We're gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
Us and everybody else, right?
I may have to take out my owner's license at that point if I find one that I feel will do that.
We'll be the owner, and we'll leave you have the job no matter what you do. Okay. That's for sure.
That's fair.
Your girlfriend also works at Canterbury, is that correct?
Yes. Yep. Her name's Mackenzie. She's a pony girl at Canterbury. So, and I met her here last summer. Say hi.
Awesome.
Hi, how are you, McKinney? She wasn't expecting that, was she?
So, besides Turf Paradise and Canterbury, do you have any other tracks that you're going to take any mounts to, or any other outlooks later in your career?
I'm from Louisiana, and I do miss it down there. I miss the people I grew up around and things like that. And I've been tinkering around with the idea of the fairgrounds at some point in my career, because I grew up with those people, and I think they would give me an opportunity there. And it's a little higher track than the ones that I'm accustomed to riding at, aside from riding at Arlington when it was in its prime, back in 2009, 8-9 time frame like that. But aside from that, I feel like riding at the fairgrounds would be a lot of fun. Riding with really good riders, and I feel my riding style is similar to a lot of those guys, so I would learn a lot and kind of iron sharpen iron type thing, So that's kind of a goal that I have one day. I don't know if it'll present itself, but we'll see.
I gotta imagine the food too, right? You grew up on that food down there.
Yes.
And it's much different cuisine than a lot of other places in the country, so you gotta miss that.
I miss it. I miss it tremendously. My dad was such a good cook. And, when I moved away, when I started riding when I was 16 and then went to Chicago from there, I never got another chance. My dad passed away in 2020, and I never got another chance to have a home cooked meal from when I moved away in 2007. And gosh, I wish I would have got one more.
Yeah, at least one more for sure. Well, it looks to me like you're getting the come on, we got to go. So we'll let you go. Enjoy your dinner tonight in Minnesota. What is it, walleye?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. That's the thing here. I got into it last year. My agent's very good about cooking them. So he was like, you got to try this. And I'm like, man, this tastes like butter. So I'm a fan now. I might actually have that tonight.
Yeah, I've been up to Canada and to like the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. I used to go fishing as a kid with my family out in Minnesota, and I got to say, there really isn't anything better to go out on a lake, catch a walleye, bring it on shore, fillet it, and then cook it right there. And that is hands down the best fish I've ever had.
That's what my agent tells me. He says that's his favorite thing to do. He's a great fisherman, so he does it all the time. He's also told me about these things called morel mushrooms as well. I don't know if you guys, I've never heard of them, but I guess they're very hard to find. But he's got like, I guess, a secret spot that he goes and finds these morel mushrooms, and he says they're like eating filet mignon, like literally. I'm like, a mushroom? I'm not a mushroom fan, but he swears by it.
Yeah, I'm not a mushroom fan either. Not at all. Never mind. We'll go. That's another story for another day. All righty. We do appreciate your time, and Lindy, we hope you have a tremendous back half of 2022 to rival 2021, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, guys. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. We enjoyed it too. Have a great night.
All right, guys. You do the same. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right, Shawn. There you go. No matter who is in charge.
Yeah, Jamie didn't miss a beat on that. I was like, come on, out of the one, she just picked it right up.
Yes,
I was hoping she would mess up a couple times with that, give herself.
She's not. She was a pro. The first day, a little bit of struggles, to get things rolling, which is understandable because on the right hand side, there's so many different buttons to press, you don't know which is which, but after that, man, bang, 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 it was a perfect show. So. And certainly, neither one of us has her smile, so that makes it for anyone. Yeah. So, one of the things we like to talk about, and I'm always fascinated by the different opinions in horse racing, Shawn. So, on one hand, we have the folks from HISA, the lady, what's her name? Lazarus or something like that?
Lisa Lazarus, yep.
Lazarus. And she says, horse racing in the U.S. cannot survive without her and HISA. Okay. I mean, and we've heard this how many times over the past couple of years, Sean? Horse racing is dead, right?
Yep.
And then on the very next headline on Google, when I Google horse racing news, how about this? Oh, wagering is up 4% year over year on all races across the United States, including the average wagering per race day is up 2%. Average purses per race day is up 10%. Both of which are outpacing the number of race days and the number of races. So you have the same number of races essentially, but you have more money going into those races, yet horse racing can't survive. So how can it be both?
I don't know. We have stories like this all the time where, it's constantly one's out in here and then the other. So they're totally contradicting each other. I don't like everything they're doing with HISA. No one does. We're not in the game. It's not our survival hood, type deal. But at the same time, it seems to have worked itself out to a point. I mean, everybody's still able to do their job and everything else. I know some are getting fined more than others. Like I said from the beginning, and I don't think it's going to be the end of the world, end of horse racing here. They definitely got to work out the kinks, and I still think they got to take in more of the actual people in the game, but that's everything. When leaders are in charge, do they ever listen to the people that are actually doing it? Not usually.
Well,
the good ones.
Most people at most companies would probably say no.
Yeah, and the good ones do. So if they're going to do it and they're going to do it right, they need to start listening to the horsemen that know this stuff. Because we've talked to the horsemen too. For the principle, they want something like this to keep everything fair. They just don't want
heavy-handedness.
Yeah, that they're getting. They're getting punished for stuff they're not doing wrong,
Well, I mean, I read too along the line, some jockeys are going to they have to get new whips. I thought they had standardized whips, but they had to get the styrofoam ones. If they don't, they're going to be booted from the sport for not carrying the right whips. So, but I understand you have to have uniform rules. To me, it was just a juxtaposition that on one hand you have somebody who is the head of HISA, however they're calling it, saying that without them, horse racing is going to die, which is an opinion, right? Right? It's not
an opinion we've heard forever.
Yes. But then when you look at the empirical evidence, the hard data, the numbers, right? The numbers say that it's not the case. The horse racing, albeit growing slowly, but it's still growing, right? So if horse racing is growing, how can it be dying at the same time?
Right. And it's growing while the economy is going down. So, I mean, people have tough times and they're still putting that money into horse racing. So, that's a positive.
They need $2 more to buy a gallon of milk. So, come on, baby needs the 4-horse to win.
Maybe that $20 ain't going far. So let's put that 20 into 1,000 type deal. Maybe, but
well, I don't think there's 1,000. So 20 to 1,000 is a big shot, but if you can turn 20 into 40, you got a couple of days worth of groceries, which, I always measure how much stuff costs by how much per bag. Like you get, it used to be $10 a bag. Then it went to 12 to 15. Now it's like $25 a bag for groceries, which is this is enough to drive you nuts. All right. So speaking of HISA, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overrode the injunction. And it looks like now that Louisiana and West Virginia, so the entire country is now under the auspice of the HISA, but it still is going to go to court. It hasn't had its final say yet, but my guess is that this is the this is the moment HISA is in full effect countrywide, and that's that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many more appeals and stuff can happen, but eventually it's probably going to happen where it's one or the other. Either HISA's going to take over all of it, or somehow they'll get outrolled on all of it.
I think they're going to take over all of it. I think that's basically where this is headed, Sean. I don't think there's any question about that. I did see that last week that the owner of Lone Star Park also sued, and in suing, he said that it was materially impacting his business. So that might be one that can get somewhere. I'm not a lawyer. I just pretend to be one on YouTube. But, I would suspect that this is the end of it right here, Sean, pretty much. I think it'll probably go to I would be surprised if the Supreme Court takes it until there's some actual harm to somebody, and then they'll go ahead and if there is actual any harm.
I don't know how these Texas tracks are surviving. I mean, look at that handle every night of racing, how much it's down by not leaving it over the OTBs and stuff. That's rough. I don't know how
that handles down with Texas, Louisiana, and West Virginia probably being out of the loop. At least Texas for sure. So if you put Texas back in, maybe it would go up a little bit even more. So with all this uncertainty here, for sure.
Yep.
All right, Shawn. Well, that takes us wire to wire. Any final thoughts from you today?
So tomorrow we have announcer Michael Rona, Los Alamitos announcer. He's been all over the place, really good announcer. And then Wednesday we have retired jockey Mario Pino, who has won over 7,000 career races. So
that's a lot of races.
Yes, it is. So.
I'll be back tomorrow to cover by myself because Terry's on the road again. He and Thomas. I think they'll be at Presque Isle Downs tomorrow, right?
Yep, that's correct.
So if you're at Presque Isle Downs, make sure you look for Tom and Terry. He's probably sporting the horse racing today gear. If not, just come up and give him a whack in the back of the head and ask him what's wrong with him for not representing, so to speak. Then I think on Wednesday they'll be at Finger Lakes. Thursday, they'll be at Saratoga, and they'll be joined by lunch with a winner who actually knew the answer to that question, which was the Chicago Cubs on August 8th, 1988. So 8/8/88, the Chicago Cubs played their first night game that counted against the New York Mets. And I know this because I was there sitting in the front row on the third base side. And actually, that was back in the day, Shawn, where, you're 21, 22 years old, somewhere in that range, and maybe drink a few beers. And my friend and I were seriously discussing running on the field, and thankfully we didn't. We both were sitting up on the brick wall you see at Wrigley Field with our feet on the tarp, ready to go. I was going to steal home, and he was going to go out and shake Andre Dawson's hand out in right field, but that never came to pass because the CPD gave us a stern look and told us to get our beeps back in the seats.
Well, there you go. That's good. Somebody commented on Twitter too. I don't know if you know this. It said also the day the Dave Matthews Band bus dumped their septic tank in Chicago on a bridge going over the Chicago River.
Oh yes.
On a site,
So
that was Larry Richter.
It wasn't on 8/8/88. It had nothing to do with baseball, but indeed. It's I'm happy I wasn't in the boat, but you know what? They're probably not the only ones that throw their crap into the river here in Chicago.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they dye it green on St. Patrick's Day, and it's only a little less green by the time the next year's St. Patrick's Day goes.
So you have to add less and less every year.
Yes, they do. They're saving money on the cost of green food coloring, for sure. And then one final note today, Shawn. You know what? This. As you grow older, this is the part. This really, to me, it kind of sucks, to be honest with you. So I remember as a little boy, probably I don't know. I was probably in 7th grade, 12 years old, maybe somewhere in that age. My buddies and I getting up, going to this theater on a Saturday, sneaking in. We would pay for one movie, and then we'd sneak into other movies, right? So I think we went to go see an Old Orchard Theater here in Chicago. It was actually in Skokie, Illinois. We went to go see the Smokey and the Bandit with Burt Reynolds. And then afterwards, we snuck in to see Grease, right? And today, obviously, the bad news for Olivia Newton-John passing away. What kind of sucks about it, it's like all these things as you grow older in your youth, one by one, they peel off and pass away, right? And it makes you just feel older and older and older and older. As a young boy in that age group, Olivia Newton-John was it. So rest in peace, Olivia Newton-John.
For me being a sports fan too, it's one of those, you always feel older because people all of a sudden just disappear. They're retiring or people pass away. Or you get the announcer on TV that's like, this old man that's 37 years old that has one more year left, and I'm 37 right now, and then you feel, like you're going to be walking around in a wheelchair soon too.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you turn on the TV and all the people that you
idolize,
but that entertained you as a child, when they're all starting to go, right? Mm-hmm. Then wait a minute, it's them, and then the next one in line, right? We're moving up that ladder. So, in any case, Shawn, I don't want to end on a negative. I just wanted to say that, I hope that she rests in peace because she, as a little boy growing up, that was a big part of our youths as boys back then. All right, Shawn. That's it. That takes us wire to wire on this Monday. We'll be back again tomorrow. covering Colonial Downs at 12 o'clock, flying solo. Hopefully the Race of Death doesn't come back to kill me again tomorrow as it did today. And then Wednesday again, I'll be Saratoga. There won't be a show on Thursday. I don't know, Shawn might be working on something for Thursday night, as I will be in transit from Chicago to Saratoga Springs. And then I don't think we'll have anything on Monday, but I'm pretty sure Eric, Chris, and Eddie will have something on Saturday. And that's it. All right, that wraps up tonight, Shawn. So we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, we hope no matter what you do, where you're doing it, it ends up in
the winner circle.
Absolutely. Have a fantastic Monday night, and thanks for joining us.